What is up? Welcome back again to another live stream repair. Okay. Yes, sorry we had to end the last one there. For whatever reason, YouTube decided to make the last stream a 360-degree video. I don't have a 360-degree camera, and I've never turned that on, so I'm not sure why it decided to do that to us, but we are back, and we've got NP155 here. Let me send everybody new links, because the old ones won't work anymore. Alright, so we've got NP155 here with no power. This is a pre-production unit. Ooh, yes. So what's special with this one is, unlike a normal HomePod that's covered up on the bottom, this has a factory cutout for the debug port with a couple of holes to screw in your adapter. I happen to have that adapter. Somewhere else. I won't show you guys here now. I've done plenty of videos on it, but in any case, you've got your USB adapter that you plug into this, and then it's got a flat cable that fits right there into the notch, so you can set it flat on a table and plug that into your computer to do whatever internal Apple debugging stuff that you want to do. I actually own this one that's a lot like this. It's probably in the same stage of development, so let's see what it's doing here. This isn't the first pre-production unit that I've had sent in to me for repair, but this is the first one that I've been able to live stream. So we're looking at the kilowatt meter. We've got no lights, no power, but we've got only 1 watt of power draw at the wall. That is suspiciously low for the usual no power issue that these typically have, which is that Schottky diode on the amplifier board that loves to go bad for no good reason other than a bad batch of them floating around out there. But in any case, this does not look like the usual no power repair, because we do have a brief spike up to a couple of watts, but then it drops back down to 1. So my hunch is we've got a short somewhere on the logic board. Perhaps we've got some random short somewhere else, but based on that power draw, I have seen most of the ones that behave like that come from a short on the logic board. So let's see if we can not only get this working again, but if it works like a normal HomePod. And I say that because the one that I have, I had bought off someone from eBay about a year ago. They were selling it as no power, and they didn't realize that they were selling a prototype much like this one. And when I got it, sure enough, it did not power on. So I took it apart, and I found the usual shorted diode inside, and when I got it replaced and turning on again, it sits there and spins the white light indefinitely. It never boots up all the way, or at least it seems. So I gave up on it for a while until we made our breakthrough with USB restoring production HomePods, and it got me curious. Is there anything in the UART logs of the production one? And sure enough, you get a whole shell into these things. and I was able to take a whole dump of my prototype HomePod's logic board and share it with a few other people so they could poke around. But basically, it looked like it was boot looping or booting forever, but never actually fully booting up. And indeed it really was. It was just in a special debug boot mode where it just kept swirling the light even though it was booted up. Can't factory reset it. Can't really use it at all for much anything other than plugging it in via USB and debugging it and running other developer applications directly on it. Let's see with a different logic board if my suspicion is right. Yeah. Alright, that turns right on with a replacement logic board. So that means it's either the logic board or the display here. Let's go ahead and try a different display, but their logic board. I've seen these displays get smashed in, and it's not obvious that they're damaged, but they don't light up anymore. So it's entirely possible this is working per se. It's just got no display to tell us. Let's see. Oh, hey, look at that. It was indeed the display. Let's see if it actually boots up or if it does the same thing that mine did where it sits there and swirls forever. While we're waiting for that to boot up, let's make sure we stay hydrated. Where is that? Yeah, that's interesting. It looks like a perfectly normal production display. No differences with a normal one here. I think that's doing the same thing mine does, unfortunately. This may not be a HomePod that this fellow can use, at least like a normal HomePod. Yeah, that's going to sit there forever and do exactly that, just like mine. Okay, well, we got it fixed. It just needs a new display, but the question now is, are they going to want it back like this? I mean, we'll put it back together and cap it off, but are they going to want to get this back without being able to really use it other than potentially messing around with the USB functionalities? We will figure that out with them. Unless they have joined us in the stream here. But, yeah, I think we're at a bit of a standstill on this one. I wasn't expecting that to be that quick and easy of a fix. Just needed a new display. We're going to put this one to the side. We'll shoot them an email and we'll see what they want to do. Okay, in the meantime, let's take a look now at Ryan's HomePod. I believe we actually USB restored Ryan's yesterday. And we already did a USB restore on it. It was successful. And they opted for the extra hardware maintenance. So we're going to crack this apart. Oh, let me change the name on the screen there. There we go. After Ryan, we've got Anthony with, I believe, no power. We're going to send Anthony a message so they've got plenty of time to join in and watch their repair. Ah, Anthony does not have no power. Theirs is base issues. All right. Oh, Ryan is watching. Or Anthony is watching. I didn't say that. Oh, Anthony. Okay, cool. Awesome. Saving me the trouble. Okay, so at the end of yesterday's stream, we already looked at Ryan's. We hooked up a USB cable to it and successfully restored the software. Looking back at my emails, I guess I must not have shot the message to watch that attempt yesterday. I'm gonna get a little rubbing alcohol in there, swirl it around. That way when we go to pry up this speaker basket in a minute, the glue that holds it down isn't putting up too much of a fight. That's a good looking subwoofer. You need a Polk audio subwoofer fixed. It cuts out. It cuts on but no sound. Pops every 3 seconds. Ooh. Sounds nasty. We might be able to fix that. We just might, but I'd be willing to take a look at that. If you could email me the model number and a brief description of the issue that you're having with it, I'll look into it and see if anybody else has reported similar issues and if it's going to be an easy fix or if it's completely uncharted territory, and we'll see. I'm always looking for unique things like that you don't see many people fixing. Alright, we are looking here at the DC filters. These love to decay over time and lose their effectiveness at filtering DC voltage. This can result in all sorts of bass issues and death farts, as people call them. So this is part of the hardware maintenance that we do for these first-gen HomePods, is replace the stuff that we know goes bad and causes issues. That way they're not paying and waiting for us to plug a USB cable into it and typing a few commands in a terminal to get it working again, getting it back, and then experiencing some other hardware issue that we could have prevented while we had it. No, no, no. So we'll get some brand new filters on there. Whether they're being used or not, it's just the way of the ceramic capacitor. They will go bad again. It's only a matter of time. But at least with some new ones, they will far outlast the originals. And nothing bad will happen anytime soon to that bass speaker. Bass speakers do not like DC voltage. Well, speakers in general don't tolerate DC voltage. How a speaker works is by an AC analog audio signal. And that AC audio signal moves the subwoofer in both directions and then returns it to a neutral middle. With a DC voltage in the audio signal, it will force the speaker in an unnatural position and basically hold it there, both restricting its movement, impacting its performance, and making everything work harder than it should just to sit there and do that. It's a 15-inch, shipping will kill me. Oh yeah. Yep. Well, maybe not. Well, maybe, actually. A 15-inch Polk. That sucker's gotta be probably like 20-30 pounds, huh? I mean, it kinda seems like... Obviously, I mean, something wrong is going on in the amplifier on that. I wouldn't be too surprised if it was a similar issue like we talk about all the time here with DC offset and filters going bad. It may not use ceramic capacitors, but even electrolytic capacitors can dry up and go bad. These days, it's not not as common, and it might use a different technology altogether to filter DC voltage than ceramic capacitors. But anyways, we've gotten this a new set of filters to keep the death farts away and the bass speaker nice and healthy. We've gotten the Schottky diode replaced so that it doesn't fail and cause no power. Unlike the filters that go bad whether they're being used or not, that diode shouldn't go bad ever. And when it does, it's usually a quality control issue with them. Has nothing to do with like them using the wrong spec for the job here. Just a low quality part. Alright, tell you folks what. Let's get this subwoofer in with a new solid rubber gasket to replace the old funky foam one. It's probably still working fine, but this will outlast it, and it'll sound a little more solid than the squishy foam. sure everything still works. Let's grab Anthony. Anthony with some DC offset. Some bad bass. Maybe gone entirely now. We'll see here. Alright, Ryan's all fixed. We'll keep that on the test bench. And here is Anthony. We got some bad bass here. Oh, its bass has completely disappeared now. It sounds like a tin can. Alright. It's not a prototype, it's a pre-production. Alright. Let's get Anthony fixed up here, and then we're gonna hop back over to that pre-production HomePod that wasn't powering on. I totally spaced out and realized just because we fixed it with a display without having to take it all the way apart doesn't mean they aren't paying for the full experience here. So we'll want to take their pre-production HomePod all the way apart and do the usual hardware maintenance to it. But that'll also give us an opportunity to take a peek inside and see if there's anything special, or if maybe it's a little too far along and it's going to be the same on the inside. With the only difference really being that hole in the bottom of it from the factory, and a special different version of the software that prevents it from working like a normal HomePod, but rather boots it up as in some sort of debug mode. A little bit of isopropyl alcohol. AJ Chain Gun, welcome, welcome. With how many we've got here, you gotta be fast and efficient. Oh boy, my wife and I were talking about the possibility of more than 1% of all HomePods that were sold having issues that they would get sent in to us for. And I jokingly said, well, and before like all 3 million or so first-gen HomePods break and people send them to me to get fixed. And I don't think I could fix 3 million HomePods in my lifetime if I sat down and did them non-stop. Someone do the math on that. How many HomePods could one person fix if it took them an average of 20 to 30 minutes per HomePod? How many HomePods could they fix in their lifetime non-stop? That's a good question for AI. Just makes noises while it's sitting idle, mostly at 3 a.m. while you're trying to sleep. Oh, that's great. That's not great, but I love the description. Let's see, I'm expecting a totally roasted woofer here. Ooh, yeah, oh, that's stinky. Ooh, that's stinky. Ooh, that's real stinky. Listen to that. That should not make any noise. It should sound more like this. Like nothing. Okay. Well, that is certainly roasted. I guess we shouldn't be too surprised about it, given the behavior they described about it to us leading up to this point. Let's grab ourselves another subwoofer really quick. It was nice knowing you, but your parts will serve others well. Oh, it's still Anthony, that's funny. Okay. That makes a little more sense. That makes a lot more sense. Give me that woofer. That's a good looking woofer if you ask me. We'll relegate this back to the parts pile. And let's get theirs back out and totally apart. We don't want to just slap a replacement subwoofer in here and call it a day. No, no, no. We know better, and we taught you all better too. Those subwoofers and speakers in general are pretty robust and reliable pieces of technology. They generally don't fail on their own. They have to be given a good reason to fail, usually externally, usually that amplifier. You hear the saying, it's not, like speakers don't blow themselves, amplifiers blow speakers. I don't even know if that's a saying. If it is, it's, if it isn't, then there you go. But we're going to get this amplifier out, and we're going to replace the parts that went bad on the amplifier that allowed this all to happen. I'll give you a hint. It's the same 4 filters that you see us replace inside of nearly every single HomePod we take apart. Long play hours and heat can kill it faster. These generally cool themselves rather well. The idea is the harder you push it, the more it's moving to cool itself at the same time. I can say I have never seen a single subwoofer failure in a HomePod where it wasn't caused by these filters going bad, as they naturally do. It gives you signs that they are going bad and out of spec before it kills your subwoofer speaker. But maybe one day I'm sure we will one day come across one where it's just nothing but the sub that went bad. Now that I think about it, I do recall one HomePod. And granted, we've fixed more than 3,000 of these things by now, but one HomePod a year or so ago, it had a really bad sounding subwoofer speaker. And when we got it apart, I couldn't see anything else wrong. Not even the filters went bad. They were still A-okay. So it was kind of confusing. But what I figured happened was the copper coil winding that makes up the voice coil must have separated or delaminated or something. Because you can you can see the voice coil inside of the subwoofer and see strands of copper floating around in there. But that would be something like what you're talking about. Long play hours and heat would be what I expect the result of that to be, but I only saw it once. I think they did a really good job with what they've got here. And I mean, it's the perfect case of you could argue this one is planned obsolescence, because these are ceramic capacitors. Everybody knows in the industry that these go bad, whether they're being used or not. So, like, did they put them in here as the only option? Were there better, longer lasting options? And they chose this because they knew they were going to go bad and in a matter of a few years, and people would be looking for replacement speakers instead of fixing it? And the tricky thing too is like, even if that were the case, how do you prove it? How do you prove Apple consciously and collectively designed these products and used specific parts to make them so that they lasted for a few years, but that's it? And then after that, outside of that warranty period, you know, who cares if they die after a few years? Who cares if they naturally go bad over time? And it'll cause more show-stopping issues. We'll get their money, and that we'll get their money again in a year or two when it breaks. Who knows? Who knows? But it would be tricky to prove it, like I was saying, because it's not like Tim Cook is sitting there and dictating to people, like, hey, design this thing with this part, or design this thing with this kind of lifespan, like, don't make it last too long kind of thing, right? I think it's more of a, like, maybe almost a sort of like a cultural problem. I don't know what you would call it, but I'm thinking more along the lines of a whole, like, I don't know. If any of you work at Apple, do you, and any of you work on the hardware design and engineering teams, are you guys, like, where's the priority for repairability and longevity here? Is it make it last for a year or two? Is it make it last as long as possible? Or just long enough for the warranty to expire? And whether it's the former or latter, I'm curious where the primary motivators behind those decisions are coming from. Are they coming from your managers, where it's not like a direct, like, do not make this last too long, but you're getting more of a vibe because they keep nudging you to do this, that, and the other thing, which results in these problems, but it still kind of works, so you're just going to do what you're told? Like, are they low-key trying to make these things this way without making it obvious? Or is it all coincidence? Or are they straight up telling you to make these things the way that they are, and it's as obvious as it is, and people just aren't talking about it? I would love to know. Oh boy, we've got chat messages. I have been neglecting the chat there. Let's catch up here. Maybe it failing and knocking the magnet over so slightly to scrape the coil enough. That is a valid theory. I didn't think about that. I have handled quite a few with physical drop damage. So none of the ones with physical drop damage ever had much more than a slightly bent. And that's the thing. If I've gotten a bent subwoofer speaker, I've always been able to straighten it out and reuse it. And we haven't had anybody complaining about a bent up subwoofer coming back. But that's still not, you know, it's still possible. I like that theory. $1,655,000 hours if you averaged 25 minutes and lived 79 years. Is that 1 million number hours? Oh, I guess that's easy math. I mean, if it only takes me like, we could estimate this. 3 million HomePods sold, 20 minutes per HomePod. That's 9 million minutes. If we got 3 million of them. Or nine. Oh shit. This is embarrassing. Hold up. Okay, 3 million HomePods. 20 minutes per HomePod. If you multiply the 3 million by 2 and add the 0, you got 60 million minutes to fix every single one. Assuming it only took 20 minutes. Alright. Power supply in. Ramstein, hell yes. It'll be pointless after like 20 years when nothing works with these anymore and can't connect to modern 2050 internet. Maybe for you guys, but weirdos like me will still be running legacy networks and hardware left and right. But on the flip side, if there's a more cost-effective solution for multi-room audio that just is flat out better in every way, what's the point? Aside from the concerns with e-waste and resources. But at that point, don't throw it away, obviously. Sell it or give it to someone else and enjoy your upgrade. Alex! Welcome. Oh, thank you so much for that. That was such a pleasant surprise to see in my mailbox, especially with how many that we've got here now, waiting to get fixed. When I'm mentally calculating how much work I've got for the day, and I find out that one of the packages that I thought was another HomePod that needed fixed was Actually, just a nice little snack from one of you fine folks. Oh, that makes my week. And it's been a rough year, so it almost made my year. I'm an easy man to please. I love food. Alex was very kind and dropped off some chips and a couple of salted caramel or sea salt and dark chocolate bars. Oh, I don't have them with me right here. Otherwise, I'd show you guys and brag about them. Those chips are pretty good, though. I wouldn't. It's a disservice to call those chips junk food. And you've got quite good taste, good sir. Oh shit, more chips next week. Hell yes. Very nice. Thank you, thank you. We'll see if I can go. We'll see if I can space out this bag of chips so I don't run out before the next bag shows up. Living on chips, man. Oh, that would be a fun challenge for some YouTuber, wouldn't it? Like living off of, like, I ate nothing but what my fans mailed me for a month kind of thing. That would be horrific almost. Ooh, I'm thinking of all the people that would send fermented fish in a can. Ugh. All sorts of weird stuff. Oh, and what's so sad is, like, you'd get so hungry. You'd probably get to the point where you would start eating whatever people sent you in the mail. I'm thinking of William Osmond and all the weird stuff that people send him that he still, for some reason, eats and, like, puts in his body. You don't know what people did with that. But much like people send their HomePods to me to avoid the pain of doing it themselves, I watch William Osmond eat gross foods that get sent to him in the mail so that I don't have to. For pure enjoyment. Yeah, no more stinky woofer. No more stinky woofer, and with a solid rubber subwoofer gasket, it should have a slightly tighter bass response. Depending on where you have it placed in your room, you might not notice, but it should be noticeable in most cases. I would like to get a calibrated microphone one day and do a side-by-side measurement of the OEM gasket with the foam and the replacement solid rubber gasket, just to drive the point home. I was surprised when I tried it out. Sounds almost like a second gen. As far as the bass. The Japan challenge that lived off magazine sweepstakes. I know what you're talking about. I saw that. I wouldn't be surprised if subconsciously part of my idea came from watching that. But I think it would be interesting for nothing but what
I'm having trouble connecting.
What random people mailed you in, as opposed to the sweepstakes where you kind of had a. Oh, I can't remember. Did he have a choice what he was getting sent? Or to a degree he did, because he I don't remember. I'm gonna have to go rewatch that.
I'm having trouble connecting.
That was so sad though. Like they were straight up torturing that guy. But what's wild is there are people out there that would still do that for fun. Okay. We are going back to the pre-production HomePod. So, where's my mouse? NP155 here. For those of you who missed the very beginning of our stream, they sent in to us this particular HomePod. It was not powering on at all. And as soon as I opened the box and I held it like this, I felt the bottom of it and I was like, oh, that's different. And sure enough, it's just like the pre-production HomePod that I've got one of myself. Aside from the hole in the bottom, it does appear to be a typical HomePod. With the exception of the software that's running on this logic board, it seems like it is booting into some debug mode where it doesn't work like you would expect. Surprisingly, it was the display that went bad. And I'm assuming it had been dropped, or maybe somebody had like tried intentionally breaking it and like hammer fisted the top of it. But what had happened was they had pushed the display and caved it enough to separate the board here from the rest of the display and caused it to stop lighting up. So under the hood, when you plugged it into power, it was actually still turning on. You just had no indication of that because the display was broken. So we put a replacement display, a known good one, on here, and it turned right on. We're going to take this apart the rest of the way and see if there are any special surprises hiding inside for this pre-production HomePod. Or if it's just like mine. If it is just like mine, then it'll be the exact same on the inside. If it's anything like the other prototype that I got like 2 years ago, that one was radically different on the inside. Unfortunately, I was specifically asked to not stream it, so I wasn't able to, and dang. But hopefully this one will have something different. This is the first time someone's sent in a special HomePod, and they said, yep, it's okay to stream, just make it anonymous. Easy peasy. But even though this is turning on with a replacement display and no other work, we do still want to take this apart and do the usual hardware maintenance, which is replacing those filters that go bad and cause death farts. We want to replace that Schottky diode that likes to go bad and cause no power. We want to keep this HomePod going for as long as possible. And here we go. The moment of truth. Anything special inside? Nope. It looks like a perfectly normal HomePod. And I can't say I'm surprised. The units like this are already so far into production that they've pretty much already finalized the hardware design inside and out. And they're at the point where they're just making sure that the hardware and the software all work together, that manufacturing is going to work out, packaging, and, you know, the whole selling a mass-produced product. Got to make sure it works right before you sell it to a bunch of people. And you got to make sure that you have your own process down before you sign yourself up to make a bunch to sell to people. Do we have any more lines in the debug port than a normal HomePod? No, it looks like there's still only the 6 or 8 or so for USB, UART, and ground. Let me make that so it's not so confusing. There we go. Okay. The diode is dated 1726K, so we don't need to replace that. It's never going to fail and cause no power. Everything else on here, excuse me, everything else looks normal. This looks like a 1-to-1 of a normal production HomePod. It's just got a hole in the bottom of it from the factory. Fancy that. Let's get these filters replaced. Oh, they do look different. Those filters do look different, if I'm not mistaken. That is interesting. Oh, maybe that's within normal variance, actually. That might be normal. I'm really just looking for anything that could be different between this and a normal production HomePod, and it looks the same. So these are our fart filters, or technically speaking, the DC filters. With all Class D audio amplifiers, you inherently generate some DC voltage with the amplification of your AC audio signal. So you need a way to filter it. Apple has decided to use ceramic capacitors to filter that DC voltage, which is okay, but ceramic capacitors do decay and lose their effectiveness at filtering DC voltage over time. Whether they're being used or not, they're gonna go bad. That's just the way the crystals be in them. So we're gonna get them replaced. We're gonna keep this HomePod happy and healthy for as long as possible. We don't want to get it back for any kind of basic. We don't want to get it back at all unless they're giving it to us or selling it to us. All right. With some new filters on there, that should be all that this HomePod needs to work for many more years to come. There's still the logic board issue to sort out, but we'll talk to them. We'll see if they want to get this HomePod back as is with the software the way that it currently is. It's not usable as a normal HomePod. It boots into a special mode that lets developers connect to it and run their own applications. So if they want to use this as a HomePod in their living room or a kitchen or something like that, we will need to swap a few parts out in order to make it work like a normal HomePod again. But if they are interested in messing around with an internal Apple operating system that's been loaded onto this, then this is what they'll want. All right, back together you go. Who's texting me? Oh. Anthony, you here, give me 1 second. There we go. I just shot you an email. I'll be texting you since texting is just more efficient. And that's, I believe you gave me your phone number when you filled out a repair form. So I tend to communicate with people however they put themselves down as in the repair form. Alright, special logic board back in there. If they want this to be a working HomePod, well that's probably going to be what we replace. But for now, we'll assume that they want this to run that special software. And we will put this back together. Just like that. You know, I just... Okay, there we go. You think things are gonna get a little weird because it's getting late. I don't normally fix stuff this late, and I don't think I've eaten enough today. Oh no. There is one way that we can test this to see if it's working that I just realized. Let's get it back together and I'll show you guys what I mean. All right. Alright, let me go grab the special sauce here. Haha, tricked you guys. Okay. Here's my pre-production HomePod. I've already taken the logic board out. I've been using it for all sorts of stuff, but you can see here we've got the same cutout on the bottom with the screw holes and the flat part out of the base so that we can connect this and set it down on a table and plug it into a computer via USB. This is probably the same situation as mine. When I got mine turning on again, it booted into a special version of the software that basically does nothing other than this, with some special sauce enabled in the USB port. So let's see if this is working in the best way that we can tell. I'm gonna grab my Mac. And I am going to grab a USB cable. And let me see what we've got here. We have... nothing. I don't see nothing. Might be a UR only thing. Let's pull up system information and check our USB ports for anything here. Nothing. This one... Let's put it in upside down and see if we get at least DFU mode. Okay, so I do have a DFU mode connected device. So it is working. There's just not much that they're going to be able to do with it. So I'll make them an offer. If they just want a working HomePod, I'll trade them this this super special one for one of my refurbished ones with a warranty and all that. But based on our conversations before they sent this in, I have a feeling they're going to want this one in particular back to mess around with this USB access. We'll see. We will see. We'll put this to the side for now, though, until we figure out what we all want to do with that. And we've got some more work to do. Enough fun. Let's grab Ben. Here is Ben's HomePod. Let's shoot them a message so they can watch, and we're going to take a brief break before we dive on into it. I was wondering why my mouse and keyboard weren't working. That's because I took its cable so we could plug that HomePod in. Okay. Where's my mouse? Ben with DC offset. In other words, some sort of bass issue. Ben 135. All right, let's find 135 here. All right, give us 1 second, folks. We'll be right back and we'll crack this open. All right, we are back. We're back. Let's take a look at Ben's HomePod here. After Ben, we've got Chris. Let's go ahead and shoot Chris a message so they've got plenty of time to join in before we start theirs.
I'm having.
Ooh. Okay. That is quite poppy. Let's get that fixed. Hopefully the subwoofer speaker is still in good shape and it hasn't suffered. Where's my... Hold on, folks. Okay. Whoa. Ooh, clean pull. All right. Get this launcher port out of here. There's our fancy subwoofer. Hopefully it's still in good shape and we can reuse it. With these death farts and DC offset issues, tends to roast the subwoofer. Surprisingly, we usually get pretty lucky and they do not need a new woofer. But like the last no bass issue that you saw us repair a pod or so ago, sometimes it's just too late. And it got real stinky. Oh, nice. Got all the glue out without having to peel it off bit by bit. And Subwoofer's good. It looks good. It smells good. It feels good. All right. Here are our filters that went bad and caused all this catastrophe. If we flip it around and look at where the subwoofer plugs into the amplifier board, we've got what used to be a 10 ohm resistor but is now a piece of toast. What's left of it, at least. Geez. What's the date code on our diode? Does that need to be replaced? Hey, no it does not. We've got a 26K date code on our Schottky diode, so that need not be replaced, but let's go ahead and knock out these filters, and then we'll replace that roasty looking resistor, and then we can get this back together. Why did these filters go bad? Well, that's just because these are ceramic capacitors. Not the worst choice, but they do still go bad whether they're being used or not. It's the way of the ceramics that they're made of. There's two things you can do about it. You can't prevent it, but you can recondition the original filters by bringing them up to their Curie temperature, their Curie point for, I think it's like 15-20 minutes. And then you cool them back down and they're good as new again. Or you can just replace them, since we don't know the quality of the component Apple used here. For all we know, these are prematurely failing and they should be lasting a lot longer than this. We like to use high quality replacements that in theory should at least far outlast the originals. Let's get those on there. Alright, filters are in place. That's it, actually. Oh, no, it's not. Almost. We're close. We gotta get that resistor. What's left of it, at least. We're gonna cover that plastic connector right here. We don't want to melt that with our heat gun. I'm going to spin that around so you guys can see what we're doing. Oh, that's really stuck on there. Ew. Okay. Let's get a new one on there. Woo! Alright. That should make for one happy, long-lasting amplifier. Let's get this together and make it one happy, long-lasting HomePod. What's 30 million minutes in years? 57 years? What's 60... Oh, shit. What's 60 million minutes in years? Yeah, sure. $114 years. So if Apple sold 3 million HomePods and it took us 20 minutes. Oh, you know, we could ask ChatGPT this whole question. Okay, let's verify our math here. If Apple sold 3 million HomePods and it took an average of 25 minutes to repair each HomePod, how long would it take you in years to repair every HomePod? No, I want you to use ChatGPT. I guess it won't. 16, 15, 60, 75. So it would be 75 million minutes divided by 75 million minutes into years. 142 years. So if we single-handedly sat down and attempted to fix 3 million HomePods, it would take 142 years. Now, 3 million's the upper end of the estimate. If Apple only sold 1 million, that's only a third of that 142 years. That's, let's see, 51, 40, 50, that's about 55, 50 to 55 years to fix 1 million HomePods in one sitting. That's doable. I think that's doable. I couldn't do that in one sitting. I'd be one hell of a backlog. But then let's say we don't work 24/7. Let's say we only work on them for let's see, 4 to 8 hours a day. Be 140, 280, 500. It would take 560 years, roughly, at about 4 hours a day. For 3 million of them, at least. If it was 1 million, you can divide that by a third. I mean, if we could, in theory, if we could count on a couple of HomePods showing up every single day for the rest of our lives, we could make this, our full-time and only job. But it would be foolish to, quit my job and do this kind of thing full time, Who knows what Apple's going to do to these software-wise. And I'm
having trouble connecting.
It would be kind of silly to have your whole income and livelihood rely on having nothing more than just HomePods coming in to get fixed. That's not smart. Alright, well, the only way to know for sure this is fixed is through testing it over the next day or so. So it does sound improved, but something to keep in mind with those filters, those capacitors. Chris. Here we go. You got to use a lot of heat to put them on there. And even the manufacturer specifies in the data sheet of those capacitors that normal operation, and you shouldn't look at how they operate until at least 24 to 48 hours after you've installed them, because the heat can have an effect on their performance. Okay, so we've got Chris up now. After that, we've got Dan. Let's go ahead and shoot Dan a message. We texted Dan, so let me grab a link to our repair stream. Oh, I wish I could show you guys how painful this is on my phone, but I just, I'm messaging people, so that would obviously compromise their privacy, but it is excruciating to try to text people sometimes. Oh, interesting. To see without trying, I want to read out the phone number too, as I'm typing it out. But I can't. I'm trying so hard. Okay. Oh, Dan has been notified. They're up next. Let's take a look at Chris's. No lights, no power, no nothing. A couple of watts at the wall. Let's get this fixed. What do you think of the new Superman trailer? Hey, that's kind of funny you asked me that. I don't normally watch movie trailers, let alone keep tabs on whatever's new out there. But Superman is like low-key my favorite superhero. Superman is the number one. There's no one that beats Superman. And I was just perusing my YouTube earlier today, and I was recommended the Superman trailer. Within the first 30 seconds, you could feel that it was like, it sucks. It's a DC movie, so people are gonna have, frankly, like myself, people are gonna have more like Marvel level expectations of production quality here, and it's not quite that. Some of the effects were kind of cheesy and noticeably less than ideal, but that said, I'm very easily pleased by a half decent movie. I can be as harsh as I want, but I'll still enjoy it. And I am very excited for this new Superman movie. I don't think I've watched many movies with the guy playing Superman in this one. I think I watched Batman versus Superman, and I watched the extended cut, like the director's cut or whatever. And oof. I mean, like I said, I enjoyed it, but metaphorically, I'm like a pig, and I can enjoy a pit of mud. So. James Gunn, yeah. I don't know. I think it'll be a very enjoyable movie. You'll have a split audience. Half of the people will thoroughly enjoy it, the other half will thoroughly hate it and have valid criticisms of it, but I'm one of those people that can criticize something but also kind of sit back and enjoy it at the same time. Oh, whenever like Critical or Penguin Zero or Charlie or whatever you want to call him, whenever he puts out a new movie recommendation, I get more excited over the ones that he rates worse than the ones that he rates better. Just because I do enjoy a good train wreck. Like, I like watching a good bad movie, if you know what I mean. Dan has made it into the stream. Welcome. Shouldn't be more than another 15-ish minutes and we'll be done with Chris's here and get on to yours. Oh boy, do I have some special surprises for you folks. I plan on doing a giveaway very soon before Christmas. I will be giving away not one, not two, but 3 of my USB docks for the first gen HomePod. These are really handy for attempting a software restore on your blinking volume button / boot looping / whatever software issue your HomePod may have. They're also great if you find this useful, where you can plug it into your computer via USB and use it as a local speaker output, nixing any Wi-Fi and wireless connections to your HomePod. It's just straight USB from your Mac to your HomePod. I'll be giving away 3 of those. I'll do one in a special color, a black one, and a white one. And there won't be much you need to do to give yourself a chance to win it, and I'll be doing it for everyone in the world. Doesn't matter where you are. I will ship it to you. All you'll need to do is wait for me to put that giveaway video out and subscribe and send me some. I'm just kidding. Send me chocolate. Send me chips and chocolates. No, we'll have a fair and square giveaway. We'll pick a random person by. What I'll do is I'll have a survey where I just ask a couple basic questions about your experience with HomePods. And as a reward for answering my survey, I'll give you a chance at winning one of my USB docks. I'm curious on a few things with this survey. The goal is to find out, how many people know that these things can be fixed and that there are people out there fixing them. Because even to this day I get people, oh, I didn't know anybody fixed these. I didn't know they were repairable. And I'm curious on a few different metrics. Like, do people keep theirs up to date? Do they avoid updates? What version do they currently even run? Opportunities that you can get, gathering a bunch of data from people without being concerned about turning around and selling it for a profit. This is pure curiosity for me. I just want to know what people got, what they do with their HomePods, what they know about them. And as a reward, I'll give a couple of you folks one of my USB adapters. You won't miss it when I start my giveaway. I'll post on Reddit, I'll post on Twitter, I'll make a video on my YouTube channel so you guys know. Oh yeah, no, I'll agree with that too, about the Superman trailer. I enjoyed it. I got chills. Oh, and then the dog. I had to rewind and show my wife when he calls the dog over. It's almost comical, like how it's edited. Like they basically just sped the dog up running and plowing through the snow like that. That's the kind of stuff I love. All right. That is it. Let's get this back together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more after this. I think we can get that done tonight. I think we can get that. I believe in ourselves. I believe in the me. Believe in the me that believes in the you. That's an old Fooly Cooly reference for you anime nerds out there. FLCL. What a great anime. One of my top 10 favorites, Gurren Lagann, as well. Actually, that's where that reference was Gurren Lagann. I'm getting them mixed up. Fooly Cooly's a great one, too. But Gurren Lagann and Fooly Cooly, easily top 10. But my favorite anime of all time, hands down, undisputed, is actually a movie. Quite palatable for an audience that normally doesn't watch anime and wouldn't want to sit through a whole season or two of, Moe Blob, slice of life, squealing anime girls, Nah. What I'm talking about is Redline. My number one favorite anime and movie of all time. Hands down. Every single frame of that movie is just so well done. The attention to detail, the soundtrack, the thrill and the emotions that it puts you through. And I'm a sucker for fast cars. So, an anime about fast cars getting pushed past their limits speaks to me. Go watch Redline. And the English dub is perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with the English dub. I prefer the English dub personally. For Redline in particular. Here we go. It's alive!
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
I'm having trouble.
I'm having trouble connecting.
I'm having trouble. Aren't we all? Well, here's Dan's HomePod. What do we got? No power? Let's get their name up there. Dab. Nah, we got Dan here. Let's see what we got. No lights, no power, no nothing other than a couple of watts at the wall. Let's get it fixed. Oh, before we get started, I want to point out a teeny tiny little crack. Where is it? There it is. Can you see it? Let's see. Yeah, there it is. I only point this out because when we go to pry this up, we don't want to make that crack any worse than it is. So what we do about that is we pick somewhere else to start. And we want to keep this tool, of course, as parallel with our panel here as possible. The more perpendicular you make it, the more you scratch it up and risk cracking it and breaking it into little pieces. And I've seen these panels crack just totally on their own. They fatigue over the years of thermal cycles, heating and cooling, and they are made of plastic, so UV exposure also tends to weaken them, and they're under a little bit of stress just existing, so they tend to spawn a couple of small cracks here and there as they age. And as these things get older, they're only going to get more and more brittle. So our caution for as we work on these has to be up there. As zippy as we make this look, there are particulars that you must mind. Try not to emulate what we do here on our live streams if you're, trying to fix one of these yourselves. I've got a purpose-made how-to guide for trying your own repairs at a HomePod, where I point out most of the special tips and tricks to avoid damage. I do need to make a new one. It's been a few years now since we put that one out, and we have learned a few new tricks along the way. Oh, I think that's ready already. Look at that. The power of isopropyl alcohol. It's glued in there. Oof. All right, hard part's over. Let's get that focused. There we go. Whew. Okay. If you guys were curious, yes, I am blistering and callousing on my hand here with all these HomePods we've had the past few weeks. Normally we only get like 3 to 5 a day, so this whole 10 to 15 a day influx these past few weeks has been absolutely insane. I've got blisters and calluses where I've never had blisters and calluses before. And I'm pretty rough and tough on my hands and body. I've never gotten blisters on my hands, and I've got spots where you normally get calluses, but pretty wild. I guess this is kind of why they have labor laws, though, huh? But this is why I don't. This is why I do it all myself. If I had employees, personally, I could sit there and work for 10 to 12 hours straight, and that's what I'd prefer too. But the law says you must take a break every 4 hours or so, and it's for your own good. But I'll freaking self-destruct before I take a break or step away from something that I'm really focused on. Classic ADHD. Alright. Ooh. Rogue heat gun. Rogue heat gun. Alright. That almost burned my ankle. We're doing alright. We're alive. Unlike this dead Schottky diode, dated 4.6K for those keeping track at home. It's the 4.6Ks and the 4.8Ks that we see causing these problems and failing for no good reason other than the person that made them didn't do it very well. So we'll get this dead diode replaced with a brand new, bigger, better, badder, but better in every way. Not that it needs to be a better spec. The spec that they used is perfectly fine. Like I said, these are only failing from a bad batch of them. But gives people a little extra peace of mind if it's if what we're replacing it with is better than the original. Wait, it happens to be cheaper too. I don't know if that's just because it's easier to manufacture the higher quality, the higher rated one, or if it's a supply and demand kind of thing. But the better version of this diode is cheaper. So, why not? You generally don't want to why not things with electronics repairs unless you understand at a component level what it is you're messing with. In this case, we do know that we can go up on the amperage rating. We can go from a 5 amp to a 7 amp diode, but we do not want to mess with the voltage rating. 60 volts is 60 volts, and that's what we want to keep it at. So it is the same voltage rating diode, but it is rated for a slightly higher amperage, and it is held to medical component manufacturing standards. So there's really no reason for this diode to fail and cause no power and give him the same issue again. Oh, I just had a thought. The day will come. The day will inevitably come when no more HomePods will show up. I mean, unless my theory was, 1 to 3 million HomePods sold, an acceptable failure rate is up to 1%. So that'd be 30,000, 10 to 30,000 HomePods. We could feasibly fix 10 to 30,000 HomePods by ourselves. But if more than 2, 5, even just 10% of all of the HomePods out there sold have the same problems, which from a fundamental understanding of how these things work and how some of their problems occur, every single unit's affected. Not by the power issue, but by the filters. Inherently, since they use ceramic capacitors as DC filters for the amplifier, they are going to go bad, and they will need to be replaced. Or else you will have bass issues. but it's a matter, I guess, of how many people are willing to keep them going versus throwing them in the trash and moving on. And I mean, to this day, there's still nothing that quite matches the HomePod and everything it does for the price. Oof. Give me 1 second, folks. We're gonna be right back. Alright, we are back. There we go. Did we, oh boy. This is what happens when I work on so many of these in one sitting. I forget what I was doing 2 seconds before I stepped away. Okay, we did fix this one. It is fixed. It is just needing to get put back together. It's been a long day, folks. Go easy on me. I know you're laughing at home like, this guy seriously just forgot whether he was taking this apart or putting it back together, but they're starting to blend together to me, man. I hate to say it. I like to make these repairs as personal and individualized as possible. But I cannot help but sometimes feel like a doctor that's trying to assign a number to their patients and get them in and out the door as opposed to caring about their problems. Especially when there's just so many of them. It can be hard. Especially when it starts to consume all of your time. And it goes from being something that you did for fun in your free time to an obligation that hundreds or thousands of people expect you to accomplish within a day or two. But I wouldn't have gotten myself involved in all of this if I didn't think we couldn't do it. If I didn't think it wasn't possible. And here we are making an absolute breeze out of something people considered to be impossible 3 or 4 years ago. Chris, welcome, welcome. Let me see. The names are all blending together today. Chris, yes. Yes, we got you all fixed up, buddy. Here is yours. I'll go ahead and show you that it's working while we're here. If you want, you can always you can always rewind the live stream and go back to when your name shows up under the Now section there at the top left. Watch the magic happen. But here it is.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Oh, I remember her. Is that your Siri? I remember her accent in particular. I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. Oh, nothing is funnier than setting up a HomePod for testing, and it's on like a super old version of the operating system, and it hasn't finished configuring, and I trigger the voice assistant, and it sounds like straight up Microsoft Sam. Like the most disgusting text-to-speech robotic voice you've ever heard. You wouldn't think that Apple would dare put something like that in a $300 smart speaker. Oh, yes. Well, I do apologize that I couldn't give you better notice about your repair, Chris. Obviously, I would love if I could time my live streams such that anybody that wanted to watch their HomePod get fixed can watch it and have it done when they wanted at the whatever time was convenient for them. But unfortunately, I've got a little kid of my own, and my time is heavily dictated by the family's availability. I gotta prioritize, This isn't our day job, as much as I would love it to be. That's the dream, is to get Nick's fixed to the place where we have nothing to worry about but what people sent in to fix. But for now, this is what it is. We're here to fix as many HomePods as people can send us in our free time between the day job and helping my wife raise a little one. We're doing what we can with what we got. But I do really hope that you guys enjoy the replay of your repair, and if you ever want to drop by for a live one and chit chat, you're always welcome.
I'm having trouble.
We're not hiding any of these from anyone. All right, we are closing in. Where's Dana? There's Dana. We got Dana with no power. After that, we've got a couple anonymous ones. And that'll be it. Ah, yes, we've got Bez after Dana. Alright. Let's plug that in and give it a sec to prove us right. Let's shoot Bez a message so they can watch when they're up next. Okay. The short messaging service has been utilized. Dana has been notified, or Bez, I should say, has been notified. Dana should be here by now if, hopefully if they got our message early enough. We got 6 watts of power draw from the wall, no lights, no power, no, nothing else here. Let's get it apart and get it fixed. CP9, welcome. I don't think I have seen your name around here before. If you send us a broken Apple device, yes, we do our best to fix everything in one sitting. At the least, we live stream everything that folks allow us to live stream for them. And we specialize in the HomePods that you see us working on usually here. I do not generally take repairs for devices that there is already a specialty service out there for. So by that I mean, don't send me your iPhone, your iPad, your MacBook. Those things have shops out there as dedicated as we are to HomePods, to those products, and you're going to be best served going to them. But that said, the stuff that you can't find a shop to fix for you, the stuff that you're just not sure about, that's what we're looking for. That's what started this whole HomePod business. There was no one out there fixing these. Nobody even knew how to fix these things. At best, people were like, you gotta cut it open and the parts inside are proprietary, so you're shit out of luck either way. And that was enough motivation for me to try to prove people wrong. And along the way, I was not only able to prove people wrong, I was able to prove that there is a whole business behind it that you can run. So let me know what you got. You're always my email inbox is always open. I might say no, but if you can't find anyone else, that's what I'm looking for. The AirPods, like the AirPods Max, is a common request that I get. Unfortunately, someone's beat me to the AirPods. Unfortunately for me, but fortunate for you folks. As long as there's someone out there fixing the thing you've got, I can sleep. I'll be happy. But there is a service out there that repairs the AirPods Max, believe it or not. And I get people every once in a while reaching out to me to fix their AirPods Max. And if you wanted me to do it for you, I would end up having to buy the parts from the person that offers the repair service for them. And I, at best, can match their repair price. So, at that point, I would be charging you as much the same price, making you wait potentially longer, and getting potentially a worse service or experience out of it. I might as well just send you over to the guy that already specializes in fixing the AirPods Maxes that sells the parts that I'd be buying. And I'm absolutely happy to. I do not want to sit here and burn my energy trying to figure something out that someone else has already figured out. Ooh, what is the issue with the AirPods Max? There's all sorts of issues with those things. They've got cold solder joints, they've got batteries that go bad, they've got microphones and integrated chips that go bad. They get sweaty and wetty and stinky. Again, though, I don't think AirPods Max as a whole are a problem product. My wife and I each have our own pair of AirPods Max, and we've owned them since I think 6 to 8 months from their launch date, and they still work just fine to this day. We leave them sit around for a few months unused sometimes, and at worst, I have to go in and like do a hard reset on the AirPods, but that's no big deal. No problem. Ooh. Cheers, folks. Appreciate it, Chris, but you don't gotta thank me for seizing a business opportunity, you know? I don't deserve any kind of thanks for starting a business. I will gladly take credit for the work and figuring out how to repair a number of these issues. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is based on principle. There's nothing to really necessarily be. Well, I guess there is. Starting a business is no joke, especially when you register for an LLC and you're paying taxes. And let me tell you, taxes are the bane of my existence. I'm happy to pay them, but they're still annoying nonetheless. Especially when I got to do taxes for myself, my family, and my business now. It's absolutely confusing, and it's kind of frustrating that our local and federal government both know, and yet they still expect me to sit here and manually crunch the numbers and fact check them for them. I know, I need to get like a CPA or some kind of professional accountant to handle my stuff, but once again, you gotta remember, this is, we do run a legitimate business here. We're registered as an LLC and all that, but I still do, it's just something that I do in my free time. So I try not to take it too seriously in the sense of making my life everything and anything about just this. At the same time, God, I love HomePods so much. It's hard not to obsess about them all the time. It's kind of the perfect hobby and profession to have, being obsessed with something that you love and work for. If only we could get this. Like, I don't hope that there's so many people out there with broken HomePods to get fixed, but I can still dream of running my own business and using that to make a living, not just offset the ever-raising increase of cost of living. Oh boy, the beer is kicking in. Nick's getting ranty. He's getting sappy. Oh, absolutely perfect. Okay. Let's get that dead diode out of here. There we go. Fixed before you could pay for your Faygo. Let's get it back together. Random question. Eric! Welcome! Greetings! What is your random question? Let's see. Let me get this screw in here. How did you decide on 464 for the hot air? I would have made it 469 because I'm perpetually a child. Funny you say that. I think a week or so ago, we had it at 469 just for the kicks. Low key, there's no set exact number that I put it at. It's just kind of random. I'll turn it on and one day it'll be at 463 and the next day it'll be at 440 or 470. What I do know is that I need to have it at least 400 degrees, about 400 to 420 degrees Celsius, before the unleaded solder melts and flows enough for me to move components around. And that's kind of my point. Is I don't really know without either experience or research or trial and error what temperature to set it at. I know that, for example, the storage chip on the logic board, we do not want to get above 380, about 375. That's hot enough to melt the solder for it. Not hot enough to melt the solder for some of the other components, but it's hot enough with skill to get this storage chip off. But certain components, certain parts, boards, and things that you're working on may absorb more or less of that heat. It may act like a heat sink per se, and like the diode that you see us replace to fix the no power issue, you usually got to crank that heat up to at least 440 to 450 in order to get things hot enough to remove the diode. But to kind of answer your question again, it depends. 464 in particular was just the random number that it landed on when I was turning it up from the 375 that I had it set to previously when I was trying to reball a few NAND chips. And I learned to set it at 375 because I simply searched on the internet what the temperature I should run to replace an iPhone 6 storage chip. Because these are based on basically iPhone 6 chipsets. They've got the A8 CPU and RAM stack on a single chip. They've got the same iPhone 6 storage chip. They've got the same iPhone 6 PMIC. They are surprisingly similar in logic terms to an iPhone 6. So I just looked up iPhone 6 NAND replacement, and I found a few guides and tips on basically set your heat to 375. Another thing to look for is, very simply put, what the manufacturer suggests. So for the solder here, our SMD solder, this is about 350 to 375 melting point. Leaded solder tends to have a lower melting point than unleaded solder. And you're typically going to get leaded solder if you go on Amazon and you search for solder and you buy the first few results. However, you're typically going to find the unleaded solder, the stuff that requires a higher melting temperature, in the existing electronics that you might be taking apart and working on. Because the government, basically regulated and said, you guys must put your stuff together using components and materials that are X safe. And leaded solder's kind of unsafe. It's lead. And the assembly process with lead can be rather toxic. Not to mention the off-gassing, like if you've got lead soldered components, when they warm up, they can be off-putting those lead fumes, and you can be ingesting them. There's all sorts of reasons why it's been regulated that they use unleaded solder in consumer electronics. And electronics repairers, like myself, tend to use leaded solder when we're fixing stuff, because it's simply easier to work with, and the stuff lasts longer. It's better. And luckily, since it's a sealed unit, nothing's getting in or out, so we don't have any health concerns to worry about there. And in general, it's not like you are replacing the solder for the entire product. So one or two things getting warm is not going to be a big deal. And off-gassing. Oh yes, lead-free tends to be higher temperature just because of the materials they have to use in place of lead. Sometimes it's to the benefit because a higher melting temperature, a higher melting point means it can withstand higher temperatures, of course. So it's a pro and a con. I remember the first batches would grow whiskers, which were killing the 2011 MacBook Pros. Ah, whiskers. I'll have to look into that. I vaguely recall the term whiskers. I'm not sure if I've heard of that explained that way before. My understanding of the 2011 MacBook failures was the BGA, the ball grid array, the soldering that attaches the graphics card to the logic board simply did not last. It would not survive the thermal cycles of turning on and shutting off, getting hot, getting cold, expanding and shrinking. And cracks would develop and corrosion would inhibit a full connection between the graphics card and the logic board. But I might be mistaken. I probably am. The first lead-free soldered MacBook. Yeah, I believe it. Did I?
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. For more info, check the Home app.
Well, it's working, but I actually forgot to screw the display down. That's hilarious. This is the first time I've ever done this. Oh boy. This is actually going to be kind of tricky. It's much easier to separate these when they are when it's screwed down. Oh boy. Just try to get it apart while it's still hot and ready like a Caesar's pizza. Oh, we're getting really lucky here. This could easily snap into pieces and we have to replace it. Oh, okay. Okay. I think since we are starting to make mistakes here, it's probably wise for us to call it quits here soon. I feel like I have the energy to fix those last three there, but I do not want to mess anything up, so we'll call it while we are ahead. We'll get Bez fixed up here, and then we'll call it. (1-800-Barbie). That's a name. Well, in any case, welcome. Welcome, welcome. We are always fixing HomePods here. You better bet. Alright, that is one fully assembled HomePod. We know it works already, but there you go.
I'm having trouble connecting to
Very nice. Dana's all fixed up. Let's get one more fixed here and we will call it good for a day. I think I've lost track, but whatever. Let's get this fixed here. No lights, no power, no nothing other than a couple of watts at the wall. If we leave this around after a while, eventually it'll probably get warm right around this area. But none of that matters now. Let's get it apart and we'll get it fixed and working again. Whew. The last one's putting up a fight. No, it's gone. That's gone. It's gone. I'm just gonna replace that. It's a good thing I've got plenty of parts pods. excuse me. Whoa. Nothing is more scary than sneezing while you're driving. Oh, there it is again. Give me a second. All right. No! Yes. You could say that, Alex. Oh, we did have the slew of issues, though. At least we had some that needed a new bass speaker. We had the usual no power. We had a prototype HomePod with a non-standard no power repair, or at least less than usual, I should say. Pretty good stream. I only wish I could have fixed more. right. Folks, I hate to do it to you. Oh, we didn't even change Bez's name. Bez, this has been your HomePod. That is a sign that we should definitely call it quits for the night before we make any severe mistakes. Oof. I still call that a well-accomplished stream, if you ask me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't know how many we fixed. Too many.
I'm having trouble connecting.
And believe it or not, there are still like, what, a dozen or so more that need to get fixed that are waiting. Plus whatever shows up tomorrow and the day after and so on and so forth. Folks, I hope you all enjoyed this live stream repair. And I hope to catch you in the next one soon.